welcome back to my channel. My name is Janet and I have lost over 100 pounds following the ketogenic diet. On my channel you will find a variety of topics, so make sure that you hit that red subscribe button and join the family, and leave me a comment down below saying that you're a new subscriber. I love chatting to everybody in the comments. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for being here and welcome back. Today we are going to talk about guilt. We're going to talk about guilt in our weight loss and guilt in our weight gain, just all around guilt that we feel. I'm hoping that there is a lot of people that feel this way, as do I, feel during our weight loss journey. So I had mentioned when I did the transition of quitting my government job over to becoming a YouTuber, I wasn't really addressing the emotions that I was feeling. If you have not seen that video, I will be sure to link it up in the cards. But I was feeling a bunch of emotions and I really couldn't pinpoint those emotions until a few weeks after that had happened. So it has been over a month, I would say probably 6 weeks now, that I have become a full-time YouTuber, and it was the best decision I have ever made. I am absolutely loving it, and I feel like I'm getting so much more accomplished in order to build my brand, and that was the main focus of doing that. And knowing that we would still be financially okay if, you know, I wasn't making what I had been making off of my YouTube. I go through all of those numbers on my other YouTube channel, which I always have linked in the description. But it was just a chance that I was willing to take, and I was getting overwhelmed by working at my physical job, and it was just taking up a lot of hours. I was working 32 hours a week there, so I wasn't getting a lot accomplished at home as far as my YouTube. So when I made that big transition, now I have always worked. I have worked since I was 13 years old. The only time I think I did not work was when I had Jenna, who is my oldest. And at that time we only had, I think it was 8 weeks of maternity leave. And I didn't work for those 8 weeks. And as well as when Zoe was born, we had a year maternity leave, so we still got unemployment insurance paid to us. However, it was a whole year that you would receive that, so I did not work for that whole year, so I could stay home with my 2 young daughters at that time. They are now 19 and 21, but you know, that was the only time that I did not work. So working was definitely a comfort for me. It is what I knew, and it is definitely what had brought me to the place that I was at, because I was a single mom. I worked a full-time job and a part-time job at the same time for many years, and it was definitely a comfort and a security of knowing that I would receive a paycheck. So when I did that big transition, I had a lot of feelings that I wasn't really sure. I've explained that I'm not an emotional person necessarily for my own emotions, but it just threw me for a loop for a good week or two. And as time went on, I realized that one of those feelings was feeling guilty. So guilt is what brought me to go back to eating the carbs and going off track and eating, you know, the donuts, going out for suppers, eating, like, you know, the bun with the burger. I totally went off of keto. Like, it was almost to the point of a binging scenario, but I was just kind of eating the foods that I wanted to. I wasn't really gorging myself of those foods, but I was eating everything and anything that I wanted for those 2 weeks almost. And once I realized the feelings that I felt and addressed those feelings, it really helped me to understand maybe some of the triggers that would lead me to go off keto and to go off plan once again. And that's what this journey is about. It's about learning about ourselves and about our triggers for everybody. And what my triggers are probably aren't the same as what you experience as far as every single trigger and emotion. But that's why I do these videos, that hope that they will help even one person to know that you're not alone, and to recognize those feelings and to recognize the triggers in order for you to move forward, to not cause you to go off of keto. So I recognized that one of those feelings were guilt. I felt guilty for leaving my job of 12 years in the government. I felt guilty for leaving that job because, like I said, I had always worked. I always worked. I was always a reliable employee. I showed up on time. I never missed work. I think I called in sick once during that 12 years. You know, so I felt guilty as an employee for leaving that job just for my own self. I felt guilty because I was leaving that job and my coworkers still had to stay at that job. I felt guilty for that because I am so young, and this is like my retirement. Even though I'm still working, this will bring me kind of into retirement. Jimmy will be retiring soon as well, and I want to get things kind of like organized for our retirement. And this channel may change the direction once that time comes, because we will be traveling quite a bit. But I really wanted to work on my brand and work on my videos, my keto coaching, my newsletters that I have every month. I wanted to work on everything and really have that as a security as far as a retirement plan. And so I left knowing that this was my retirement. Like, I would not be going back to work ever. Even if I quit YouTube today, it wouldn't make a difference on our finances. We would still be definitely okay. So knowing that I was retiring at age 45, I felt guilty for that. Whereas that should be an accomplishment, and I should be feeling so good and grateful and blessed that I'm able to retire at this age. I have explained why I retired, and the benefits at my job just was not beneficial for me for long-term pension wise. So I felt guilty for that reason as well, because my other coworkers were still going to have to be working there, which I realized how toxic that work environment is. So I felt guilty for that. And I felt guilty for working at home and being at home, because there is so many people every day, coworkers, you know, customers that enjoy retirement. They love living and working from home. They, you know, enjoy the freedom. And I was going to be getting that freedom. I was going to be not setting an alarm and not going to work at a certain time and setting my own schedule, setting my own holidays. I would be able to do all of that. And as much as it made me feel really happy, I did feel guilty for also doing that in the eyes of others, primarily my coworkers. That is just how I felt. I can't explain it any other way. I didn't want to be, like, I was ecstatic that I was leaving work, but I didn't want to show it. And then on the other hand, I did feel all of those guilt feelings, you know, for quitting, being my own boss, retiring, working from home. I was feeling guilty for that as well too, because all of the other people in my life aren't able to do that, or, you know, whatever the case is, they are still at work, etc. So I turned to food. That was only one of the emotions that I felt, was guilt. We maybe will go over into, if you're interested in other emotions that I felt and that I'm learning that were triggers. Because before I would say I would eat for any reason, which is true, but we need to figure out when we feel those feelings, why they are a trigger. You know, I eat and go off the rails when I'm happy, sad, guilty, you know, like, etc. I will go off the rails no matter what. But what kind of triggers me to go off the rails when I feel those things? I will always feel feelings, whether they are happy or sad or good or bad. But we need to realize, like, go a little bit deeper, I feel, why we are considering these triggers for our food addiction. And yeah, guilt was one of them, and I feel like that emotion just ate me alive. I feel like I couldn't be happy for myself. That is definitely a key point to take away from this video, is I couldn't feel happy for myself, you know. And it's kind of a sad reality to feel that way. But at that time, for those 2 weeks, that is exactly how I felt. Now, I have overcome those feelings, and have recognized it, and I do feel happy for myself. I'm so proud of myself. I have all these positive emotions now that I realize, you know, with making that decision as time went on. But I'm talking within those 2 weeks that I made that decision, gave my notice, and quit my job. Guilt was definitely high on that list. So the guilt made me feel bad for myself. And when I felt bad for myself, I'm sure you can kind of figure out, obviously, with, you know, what had happened is I started eating because I felt bad for myself. And that guilt had made me feel that way. And I consider myself a positive person. You guys know from being on YouTube, 99% of the time, I am a positive person. I always look at the positivity out of everything. But like I said, for those 2 weeks, it really drew me in, and I started feeling other feelings as well that I can do a video on, but that is exactly what had happened in hindsight. Now realizing it, I never realized that at the time in those 2 weeks. I just thought, you can even go back to those videos and I'll be at a loss on why I'm doing this and why I went off of keto, other than I quit my job. You know, that's kind of what I blamed it on. Well, I quit my job and I made this big transition. That is why I went off the rails. There was much more to that. There was much more to that. And that is something that took me time to realize. And now I am feeling so much better. I am back on track, and I have implemented a lot of more positive affirmations in myself and really taking control of my own emotions instead of worrying about others and worrying about those feelings that others have when I did quit. Because I did take on those emotions, and whether they feel that or not, I don't know. This is just presumptions of things. But I took those on for myself, and that is kind of what dragged me into that dark hole for almost 2 weeks. All we can do from these emotions, and by learning more about ourselves in these moments when we do go off keto and we do find a trigger, is to learn how to prevent it for next time, right? We can't do anything about the past. That is another thing that I realized, and I said, you know what? I dealt with that for 2 weeks. I have learned from it. I have dove deep into those feelings and realized what had happened. And now, you know, 6 weeks later, I have a new outlook on what had happened and why I took on, you know, those emotions from other people, which then caused me to trigger my food addiction. And, you know, the one thing that definitely comes out of it, which I thought I had under control, because I am definitely that person that I don't worry about what other people think. So I say, but I really do. I really am that person that, you know, thinks of others on what I do. So when I quit my job, I was thinking about how others will react and possibly how others are thinking. And then I take that on myself, and it's a negative thing. It's a negative way, always. It's never like, oh, they must be happy for me. You know, it's not, it's a negative way that they would be taking it. So I've learned a lot about myself and about how I am dealing with my own feelings and emotions. And one thing that I have taken away is that you cannot control what others do, say, or think. You cannot control that. But what you can control is how you react to your own feelings and emotions. Your own feelings and emotions. So if there is something negative that is happening around you, or if there is something positive that is happening around you, you are in control of your own feelings and your own emotions. Don't try to think, oh, they must be jealous of me. Oh, they must be mad at me because I'm leaving work. Oh, they probably are wishing that they could do what I do. Or, you know, whatever the scenario is, we cannot control their thoughts and feelings if they are even thinking that, right? We don't even know that. All we can worry about is our own and take the moment in. You know, that is one thing. When I did give my notice and I quit, I was happy, but then also I could feel, even though my coworkers didn't say anything, I could also feel the tension and that they didn't want to hear about it anymore. They didn't, not necessarily a jealousy thing, but they just didn't want to hear about me leaving my job and retiring anymore. So I couldn't even be happy in that moment while I was at work saying, this is my last day. This is my last day ever that I'll have to work for an employer. Like, I felt myself not saying those things, and I really couldn't be happy for my own self, which was really sad. And I wish I could have changed that and just did what I wanted to do and not worry about that they would be mad, or, you know, because they were looking at me that way, they didn't want to hear about it more. Like, this was, I don't want to like centralize it, but it was my time. This was really an exciting moment for me. So that is another thing that I learned about myself going through this. It has taught me so much going through all this, even though, you know, I went through that 2 weeks of off keto and eating whatever I wanted. I learned so much about myself going through that 2-week phase with my food addiction. It had taught me a lot. So like I mentioned, there is other emotions that I felt that I definitely can go into. I like doing these videos about once a week. I usually tend to put them into the rotation of my videos, and it's helping a lot of people, and it helps myself as well to talk about it and to talk to all of my friends that are watching and really discussing to get to the root, you know, of your addiction. So thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a like to let me know that you're liking my content, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so YouTube can notify you when I upload a new video. Thanks for watching.